In the second episode of The Last of Us, titled One Night, the pace slows down after the intense and tragic first episode, When You're Lost in the Darkness. While still emotionally poignant, the second episode presents a more subdued atmosphere as it continues to introduce us to the characters and the post-apocalyptic world they inhabit. We learn more about the growing bond between Joel and Ellie, and the weight of their individual past traumas becomes increasingly apparent. Although less action-packed, the second episode is just as heartbreaking as the first, drawing the audience deeper into the emotional landscape of the series. Welcome to Streaming Addicted, your YouTube channel that reveals the best movies and TV series of the moment every day. In this second episode of The Last of Us, which was helmed by Neil Druckmann, the writer and creative director of the original game, the pace slows down as we are taken outside the confines of the Boston quarantine zone. This shift in setting allows us to gain a better understanding of the harsh realities that Joel and Ellie will have to navigate. In addition, the episode offers a more nuanced portrayal of Tess, Anna Torv, the leader of the smuggling operation that Joel and she run together. We got a deep look into the complex relationship between Tess and Joel, which was only hinted at in the games but is now subtly explored in the show's first two episodes. By doing so, The Last of Us offers a more fully realized and emotionally resonant depiction of its characters and world. Similar to the first episode, When You're Lost in the Darkness, the second episode of The Last of Us begins with a flashback to a time before the world was ravaged by the cordyceps infection. Set in Jakarta, Indonesia on September 24, 2003, just 2 days before the world-changing outbreak day, we are introduced to Ibu Ratna Christine Hakim, a mycology professor at the University of Indonesia. The police bring her in to examine a specimen, which she identifies as cordyceps. However, she doesn't believe that the sample was taken from a human. As she examines the corpse from which the sample was taken, she discovers a bullet wound in the middle of the corpse's forehead. Upon further investigation, she finds a human bite mark on the corpse's ankle, which reveals the presence of fungi. When she looks inside the corpse's mouth, she is horrified to see tendrils of fungus seeping out. Fearing for her life, Ratna runs away from the scene. This opening sequence sets a chilling tone and serves as a haunting reminder of the gruesome origins of the cordyceps infection that has devastated the world. As the police share more details of the incident with Ratna, we learn that the outbreak has already started. The violent attack by a normal woman on her co-workers at a flour and grain factory on the west side of the city was just the beginning. The woman had bitten 3 of her co-workers, who were then executed after being taken in for observation. With 14 other workers from the factory missing, the infection is already spreading rapidly. Ratna understands the gravity of the situation and tearfully suggests that the only solution is to bomb the city and everyone in it. She realizes that there is no cure or vaccine to stop the infections from spreading, and the world as they know it is about to fall apart. Wanting to be with her family before the inevitable end, Ratna asks to be taken home. This scene effectively sets up the grim and hopeless tone of the world that Joel and Ellie must now navigate. After the episode's credits, we see Ellie asleep in an abandoned building under the watchful eyes of Joel and Tess. They are both understandably wary of the girl who appears to be immune to the outbreak. Ellie shows them that the bite on her arm isn't getting worse and reassures them that she's not infected. Joel and Tess are surprised and confused, unsure of how to proceed. Ellie reveals that the head of the Boston Fireflies, Marlene, found her after she was bitten and locked her up. Marlene and her men conducted tests on Ellie to determine whether she was getting sick. This revelation adds another layer of intrigue to the story and leaves us wondering about the motivations of the Fireflies and their interest in Ellie. After Ellie leaves to use the restroom, Joel and Tess discuss their new traveling companion. Tess is convinced that Ellie's immunity is real since she didn't turn into an infected overnight, but Joel is skeptical and believes it's only a matter of time before she succumbs to the infection. While Joel wants to take Ellie back to the Boston quarantine zone, Tess sees her as a valuable asset to obtain the supplies promised by Marlene. Ellie reveals that Marlene is protecting her because she believes that Ellie is the key to finding a vaccine. Joel is wary of this promise, but Tess is determined to complete the job, regardless of whether the promise is true or not. For Tess, getting what they want by delivering Ellie is enough. During their journey through the city, Tess reveals that most major cities were bombed to contain the spread of the outbreak. While this strategy succeeded in Boston, it failed in most other places. They come across a blocked path and decide to take a longer route instead of a riskier one. Ellie, while traveling with them, confesses that she was bitten after sneaking into an old mall in the quarantine zone. She explored the abandoned mall by herself and informs that she is an orphan with no family or friends to come after her. Ellie is surprised that there aren't more infected outside the quarantine zone, leading her to believe that rumors about overrun cities might have been exaggerated. As they make their way through a flooded hotel, Ellie discovers a skeleton and falls down. Joel helps her up, and for a moment, he is reminded of a time when helping a child was not so unusual. After climbing 10 floors, they encounter a blockage caused by rubble. Tess investigates while Joel and Ellie are left alone for the first time. Joel reveals he's from Texas, and Tess is from Detroit. When Ellie asks if they are a couple and how Joel ended up in Boston, he simply replies with pass. The topic shifts as Ellie inquires about the lifespan of the infected. Joel responds that some only last a month or two, while others have been around since the infection began 20 years ago. Ellie then asks if it's difficult to kill them, given that they were once people. Joel admits that it can be difficult at times. While Ellie brings up the Fedra guard they had to kill to escape, the conversation abruptly ends as Tess returns. While standing on a hotel balcony, Ellie spots a swarm of infected for the first time. Some are dead, while others are still scavenging for food. She knows that they seem to be connected, and Tess explains that the fungus grows underground and acts as a network, allowing infected individuals to sense and locate others. Even though Ellie is immune to the infection, Tess reminds her that the infection can still harm her. With their intended route blocked, they opt to navigate through a museum instead, knowing that it may also harbor infected individuals. The museum appears to be safe, but their discovery of a man who has been brutally torn apart suggests otherwise. Joel and Tess become silent, indicating they dealt with this kind of threat before. They warn Ellie to be completely silent from now on as they navigate the museum. However, a noise from Ellie attracts the attention of two clickers, an infected that locates its prey through sound. Joel and Tess engage in a gunfight with the clickers while Ellie hides. Despite Joel's attempt to lead them to safety, they are attacked by a clicker after he steps on a piece of glass. The clicker falls on top of both of them, but Joel shields Ellie and shoots the clicker until it retreats. As they attempt to get up, the clicker returns to attack them, but Tess uses an axe to eliminate one, while Joel takes out the other with his gun. After taking down the infected, the trio regroups and claims to be fine, despite Ellie being bitten again in the same spot as before. Once Ellie crosses over to another building, Joel and Tess have a moment alone. Joel expresses concern that the second bite might take, but Tess becomes frustrated and tells him to accept the good news for once. Tess stays behind while Joel and Ellie observe the cityscape. Joel asks if the view was everything she had hoped for, to which Ellie responds, "Jury's still out, but you can't deny that view." The state house they are heading towards looms in the distance. As they arrive at the State House, the absence of the fireflies is conspicuous, but the sight of a blood-drenched truck and a lifeless body alongside a trail of blood leading directly inside the building paints a grim picture. Upon entering, they discover the entire Fireflies team slaughtered in a chaotic mess, possibly due to an infected member turning on them. Despite the hopeless situation, Tess remains resolute in finding out where the Fireflies were headed with Ellie. Joel, however, believes it's time to cut their losses and go back home. Tess, frustrated with his attitude, declares that the quarantine zone is not her home and insists on staying to uncover the truth, even if it means facing the worst possible outcome. When Ellie reveals that Tess is infected, Tess tries to approach Joel, but he recoils from her, causing her immense pain. Tess then exposes the bite mark on her neck, which appears far worse than Ellie's recent bite. Tess implores Joel to consider her plan, insisting that Ellie's immunity is real. In a trembling voice, Tess asks Joel to take Ellie to Bill and Frank's place, promising that they will take care of her. When Joel refuses, Tess insists that he will agree, as she has never asked him for anything, not even to reciprocate her feelings. She explains that this is Joel's chance to make things right after everything they've been through, to get Ellie to safety and ensure that she stays alive. As one of the infected unexpectedly revives, Joel quickly dispatches it with a bullet to the head. However, the fungus tendrils rapidly infiltrate the dead creature's body, calling more infected to the area and putting the trio in imminent danger. With a swarm of infected rapidly approaching, Tess frantically starts breaking open gas canisters and scattering grenades on the ground. As Joel realizes what she's doing, Tess approaches him and says, "Save who you can save." Despite Ellie's protests, Joel pulls her away and leaves Tess behind, following their path while Tess remains behind to face the incoming swarm. As the swarms of infected try to break in, Tess tries to light her lighter to set them all ablaze. However, her lighter doesn't light up and she draws the attention of one infected. The infected gets too close to her and its tendrils enter Tess's mouth as she continues to try to light the lighter. After one flick, the lighter finally ignites, causing an explosion that kills Tess and the other infected. As Joel and Ellie make it outside to safety, Joel mourns the loss of one of the last people that mattered to him, while Ellie realizes that their journey, even though it has just begun, cannot be for nothing in the end. What did you think of Tess's sacrifice in The Last of Us Episode 2? Did you expect her to make that choice, or were you surprised? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.